بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Now you can also recite it. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. You can also recite it. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. You can also recite it. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. And there are a couple other ways that you can recite that with some slight variation, but those are the main ways that you find the differences, other than Hafs, which I didn't recite because most people are familiar with that qira'ah. Ya Ustad, is there a best way to recite, or the way the Sahaba did it? I just recited you the way that the Sahaba did it. All those different ways. The beauty of the Qur'an is in the fact that the people could not, the people, when I mean here the Crusaders and the enemies of Islam, could not alter it. Okay? They couldn't fade it. And one of the reasons why they couldn't fade it, because we have certain ways that we can recite it that other people cannot imitate. They can't take it away from us. So the Sahaba recited it the way I just recited it to you. Some recited it this way, some recited it that way. We have the statement of Ubay ibn Ka'ab. He came up and he said he was reciting Qur'an in the masjid, and then afterwards a man came up and was reciting next to him in a different way than he was reciting. And he said, I felt the ghayra, the jealousy of jahiliyyah. When I was possessive of my way, it should be done my way, that I learned it. And I wanted to jump on the guy And then another guy came up and started reciting the Quran in a different way from both of us. And he was reciting a different way. And so when we finished, now Ubay ibn Ka'b, who is Ubay ibn Ka'b? He is a sheikh amongst the Sahaba. If the Sahaba were all together, who was their sheikh? Abu Bakr and Ubay. These were the shuyukh. They were all more than that. You have Mu'adh ibn Jabal. He's also a sheikh amongst them. Umar ibn Khattab and others. So what we find though, this was a sheikh who said after he finished praying and feeling that sense of tinge of jealousy, he took those two people by the hand. He said, "Hey ya bina, let's go talk to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And so they went to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they explained to him what happened. And he said, "Yeah, don't get into problems like the people. Don't be in problems like the people did with Musa, debating about the book." See, we take that out of context. Recite what is easy for you to recite from the Quran. That means not do a little bit of reciting, as we sometimes interpret it to be. It can carry that meaning as well. But the context that it was made in, recite what qira'ah is easy for you. So if you like to say siratu with a sin, because that's easy for you, then recite it with sirat. And learn the qira'ah that uses sirat. If you got one of those tongues that says sirat alladhina an'amta alayhum, you say that, then do that. And that's easy for you to do. And we got a qira'ah for that. If it's different for you to say yu'minun, then say yu'minun. But learn there are particular ways that you can, and there's some ways that you cannot. Go to the teacher. He's supposed to know these qira'at. Why does he know them? Not to keep them secret and in a closed club, but to spread them out on the different people. So this one comes and he's from Harlem. So he says, salams. You know? We have the people from New York, especially uptown, they go a lot with that. So we have the Abdus-salaam, the Shawih. We have that type of thing that's in there for that to carry that New York, upstate, Boston accent that we have. You guys understand? Yes, sir. Oh, he started it. He's supposed to start it again.
No, I didn't start it.
Why not?
I did. It's on.
Oh, it's on. He says he restarted it. You got to go to, you have to close yours and go to another one, I guess. Okay. You sure?
No, it's on right now.
You find it? Anybody else got a Facebook Live thing to check?
There's 21 people watching.
Okay. Found it? Now? Okay. We got it. Oh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So, where was I at? What was I talking about?
Uptown.
No. I mean before that, because I was asking a question. Okay, so those different qira'at are the many ways that you can recite it. We are teaching these qira'at to people so that they can learn them. You know, and so if you want to learn how to recite the Quran, then come to us, sit down with us. It doesn't take that much time, and memorize the Quran. And when we listen to you, or if you have a predilection, you like a particular way, we can teach you that particular way of reciting the Quran. You don't have to recite hafs, finish hafs, and then start reciting another qira'ah. They didn't do it that way. This is something that is new. But rather, the people recited what was easy for them, whichever qira'ah they like. My children, they're different ones, recite different ways. And it's okay. Alhamdulillah, yes.
What about with a southern accent?
With your southern accent, if you know, when you start reciting, then we'll see where that could fit in which qira'ah. Okay? Because this doesn't make a difference, because the Arabic is still going to be the Arabic, you know? And the tajweed is still going to be the same tajweed. You know, but the qira'ah will take your tone and your type of qira'ah. After this, we'll sit down and you recite, and I'll try you out on a couple of things. Bi-idhnillah. Okay? So we begin with the Quran. After Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Allah says Maliki Yawmiddin, or He says what? Maliki Yawmiddin. So he's Maliki Yawmiddin and he's Maliki Yawmiddin. Do you guys get it? So Maliki Yawmiddin means he is the king of that day. What does being the king give him? This sifa, this description of Allah as the king, what does that allow him to be? That means he has authority. He can do what he wants on that day, right? And it also means he has the power to do what he wants, to enforce his will. Everybody understand? With that mentality is that you ain't the king on that day, and the king can do what he wants to do, right? Then also he's Maliki Yawmiddin. What does that mean? He owns it. So not only does he has the right to do whatever he wants to do with it as well, right? Because sometimes the king doesn't own everything, right? You still own your own stuff. So the king can't just take your stuff. But when you're the king and the owner, you can do whatever you want, any way, shape, form, or fashion. And so this is tafseer of the Qur'an, utilizing the Qur'an. The first, before we go to another ayah, to find the meaning of the Qur'an, we use that same ayah in a different qira'ah to explain that ayah. Does that make sense? Because we use the Qur'an to explain the Qur'an. A lot of people think that means you go to another place in the Qur'an to explain the Qur'an. We do. But before we go, we recite that same ayah in a different qira'ah, and that qira'ah explains it as well. Like we said, Maliki and Maliki. There's one ayah with two different meanings to help explain each other. Does that make sense? Sometimes the changes are just linguistic. Linguistic, and the sound, they don't change the meaning. Like sirat and zirat doesn't change the meaning. Just be saying just recitation. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner and the king of that day. And he can do what he wants. Yawmiddin. What does it mean to be Yawmiddin? The day when all debts have to be paid. Okay? All debts. And this is why it's called judgment. Now you have a problem with your wife. You have a problem with your husband. A problem with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother. You have a problem with your boss. You have a problem with your neighbor. All the problems. Now everybody's going to get their answer, who was correct and who was incorrect. Who took someone's right and who owes someone a right. Eunice.
No.
You're awake, you fell asleep, your camera's all the way over there. Alright. Stand up, son. So now he's Maliki Yawmiddin and he's Maliki Yawmiddin. Right? And the day of the debt. So people have to worry about this debt. Because we owe people. You owe people rights. Does everybody have rights? No. If someone has a right over to you, that means you have obliged. You have an obligation to do that thing. So let's say I come in the room, what am I obliged to do?
Give salam.
I have to give salams to everybody in here, right? And then if I give you salams, what are you obliged to do?
Return.
Return them. If you don't give me salams, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, I will take something from you. Okay? And if I can't take anything from you, then you will take something nasty from me. Okay? Meaning that either you will give me one of your good deeds, equaling the salams that you owe me, or you will take one of my nasty, stinking deeds, equaling the right that you violated, however it hurt me. You get my point? Does everybody understand that? If I sneeze and I say Alhamdulillah, what do you owe me? You owe me to say Yarhamakumullah. If you don't, and you refuse to give me that right, then on Yawm al-Qiyamah you will give me the equality of that particular thing, or you will take from that. Hop off of them. Get off your knees. Does that make sense, guys? When I die, what do you have a right to do for me? What do you have an obligation to do? You have your obligation to make sure that I get washed, and to make sure that I get buried. And if you follow and you see my bed, you have to follow my bed, right? If you refuse for no good reason, then I'm going to have a problem with that. And Yawm al-Qiyamah, I'm going to lodge my complaint. And Allah's going to judge whether you had a valid reason to skip out on my rights or not. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. You can go. Get up. Fadl. Stubborn. All right, so that's what Yawm ad-Din is. And everybody should think about Yawm ad-Din, because Allah is telling us and reminding us of this Yawm ad-Din every day, right? So if Allah is telling us to recite this surah, and the fact that we have the debts that we're going to have to pay, that should make us understand that it's a very important day. Very important day with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it is Yawm ad-Din. Does everybody get that point? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. In fact, we find that Yawm ad-Din is one of the main subjects spoken throughout the entire Qur'an over and over and over again. Right? It's one of the mathaani. There are 7 points mentioned in the Qur'an over and over again. Anybody know those points? Yes? No? We'll mention them at the end. So we have Yawm ad-Din. Maliki Yawm ad-Din. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. So Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in is you we worship. Iyaka na'budu. Who is you? Allah. We worship you. So we're showing our allegiance to Allah by making this statement. And we're also psychologically, by us saying, you we worship, we're reminding ourselves. We're making an acknowledgement. You and only you are the only one that we worship. وَنَسْتَعِينَ. And you are the only one that we can ask for help. We're seeking your help in order to worship you. Okay? We can't worship you without your help. How come we need Allah's help to worship Him? How? To give us the guidance. How do I know how to worship Him? First, we have to understand what the word worship is. The word is ibadah. Ibadah comes from the word slavery. Right? Isn't the word abd? So we're saying, you, oh Allah, we're going to slave for you. What does that mean, we're going to slave for you mean? Because we say worship, maybe sometimes we don't understand what that means. We're going to do service for Allah. We're going to do what Allah wants. What does a slave do? Come on, guys, tell me. If you had a slave, Maimuna, what would you make her do? You would make her clean. Allah tells us to clean. What does He tell us to do? Abad. Tell us one thing Allah tells us how to clean.
Make wudu.
Tells us to make wudu. To clean ourselves, right?
Yeah.
He tells us to make ghusl. He said, at-tahara min al-iman, right? That purity and cleanliness is from faith. Right? Tahara takes a noble spot. After aqidah, before salah. 11 cleansing points in order. All of them begin with water. Right? So He teaches how to clean our vessels. He teaches how to clean our homes, our bodies. How to make wudu and all these different things like that. How to wipe over the khufs and not to. How to deal with our demences. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. So worship or slavery is to do what Allah told us to do. The word al-ibadah describes for you and me all that Allah loves, right? And is pleased with. Right? So if Allah does not love it and is not pleased with it, then it's not ibadah. Now, aqil, how do I know if Allah loves and pleased with a particular act? How would I know that? How would I know that? Abdurrahman. Anybody? No arms. Not wise. Say not wise, guys.
Not wise.
We would know by Allah telling us. Okay? Tafadhal. Go ahead, Ahmed. We would know because Allah would tell us. Where would He tell us? Where would He tell us? He would tell us in the hadith. He would tell us in the hadith of the Messenger of Allah what Allah loved and pleased. He would tell us in the Qur'an how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to serve, how to be a good slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're acknowledging that we're the slaves of Allah and that we have to continue to slave for Allah. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ اهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ اهْدِنَا This is the focus of the whole surah. The beginning part of the surah was praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And now we get to the part where Allah says, my slave has praised me, my slave is worshiping me. Hey, whatever my slave asks for, I'm going to give him. Ihdina. So Allah is teaching us how to make dua. Sooratul FaatiHah is a dua. Okay? That's all it is. One dua. And that dua, we taught how to lead up to the question, and we're told how to clarify the question. So leading up to it, we praise Allah by saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, acknowledging that He's Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, He's Maliki Yawmiddin, and we worship Him, and we're seeking His help to worship Him. Ihdina. We want to worship You, and only You. We need Your help, and we can only worship You by You teaching us what to do. Now, we're asking You to guide us. Guide us to what? This dua could be made by a kafir. This dua, let's imagine as we go through the Qur'an this year, that we're talking about a person who does not believe in Islam. He doesn't know about Islam. Sit up, Yunus. He doesn't know about Islam. But he comes to the Qur'an, he says, I want to know, I want to get Iman. I want to learn what is right guidance. Okay? What do I do? And so he learns this dua. And so he makes it. Okay? He doesn't know what he's asking for. He just wants guidance. He doesn't know what to expect, is what I'm saying. Okay? Ihdina. Guide us. Guide us to what? Ihdina sooratul mustaqim. Guide us to the straight way. Now we translate this word mustaqim wrong a lot of times. What does mustaqim mean? Look. Mustaqim. The mu, Allah is making this word, giving it life and character. Mu. Mustaqim. Mu in front of the word means one who. The one who has the character of the rest of the verb or the word, right? You get it? Like we are Muslims, right? Muslim. Those who are in Islam. What is a munafiq? Someone who is in nifaq, in hypocrisy, right? What is a mushrik? Someone who is in shirk, right? Muflihun. Those persons who have become successful. You get my point? So mu here is not just for the human, the animate, it's for this thing that we consider inanimate. This sirat, this path, this bridge. And it's qiyamah is the root word from qama, qiyamah. He's straight, to stand up straight, boom, right? So yawm al-qiyamah is called qim. So ista, this ista here is to seek, to ask. What do we say? Astaghfirullah, right? Asta. The ista there is the seeking part. The staghfirah is the ghafur, right? We're asking for the ghafur of Allah. So we're looking for the path that is mustaqim. What is mustaqim? It's not straight. That's not the answer. It's a path. Yes, the path is straight. Okay? But it also, mustaqim means that it's the path that is straight and will straighten you out. Okay? Because that's what the ista does. The ista means it's causative. It's a path that causes you to be straight. Does that make sense? Yes. So of course, in and of itself, it is straight. But the point of the path is that it's a path, the way that will straighten you out, that will cause you to be right and upright. And I think that part is lost amongst people when we say sooratul mustaqim. It's the thing now. Because we're asking for Allah to guide us. We say path, but what we mean by it is way. Stand up again and do more push-ups.
No.
We're asking for Allah to guide us to the way that will straighten us out. Don't leave me to myself طرفة عين. لا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين. Right? Don't leave me to myself. Guide me to a way that will straighten me out. I need help. Right? Isn't that what we're asking for? I'm asking you questions, guys. I want answers.
No.
Don't you want to get on and find a way that will straighten you out?
No.
You say you want to be straight, but you want the path to work. We're lazy. We want that to do it for us, right? And this path will do that for you. Come forward with something, Eunice. You don't want to put your feet in Moni's face. She's had to deal with that for a long time. So, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Think about it when you recite it. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. The path of those who you've blessed. أنعمت عليهم. I want the path that of those people that you've blessed. And when they got on that path. غير المغضوب عليهم. Not the path of those people who you're angry with, who have incurred your anger. ولا الضالين. And not those people who went astray. Now we know from this that we're talking about characteristics. We always want to say the Jews and the Christians. Let's stop for a second. Forget the Jews and the Christians.
On Facebook Live.
Huh?
One person saying that Muhammad bin Wali said he can't hear anything. What happened? I don't know what happened.
Well, I don't know. Is anybody else can hear on Facebook? Ask everybody else if they can hear on Facebook Live. Please, somebody check. Can you hear on Facebook Live?
I have it muted because of that.
You have it muted, okay. Somebody check. Path is straight and will straighten you out by staying on it. And the proof that the path will straighten you out, because someone wrote it here, is what does Allah say? Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. That sooratul mustaqim, okay, they hear it. Other people say they hear. Alhamdulillah. Tell Muhammad bin Wali I said salam alaikum. Now, Zainab, stand. Oh, I thought you was laying out. Never mind. Get up, Eunice.
No.
Just stand up, bro. Okay?
No.
No, stand up. Stand up right over there. Right, keep that up. Matter of fact, go over next to the lieutenant. So, Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim. I'm sorry, not in front of it. Lock his feet. Oh yeah, that's what your excuse for it is, huh? Alhamdulillah. So that was a good joke. I caught that. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now, the proof that the path straightens us out is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that as-salah prevents us from doing harm, lewd and inappropriate things. Some of the ulama say that if your salah is not preventing you from doing lewd and un-Islamic affairs, then you're not actually offering salah. Okay? You're not offering salah properly. Because Allah is telling the truth. You get my point? So there's something missing from your act, your presentation. You two guys need to stop right now. Okay? Giggle, giggle, giggle. Alright? Stand up. You stand over there too. Hannah, you're in trouble too. Yeah. Yeah. So, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Go my gap, I mean. So now, Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. We're always talking about the Jews and the Christians here, saying, oh, it's the Jews and it's the Christians that Allah is talking about. Yes, Allah, the Messenger ﷺ gave an example of Jews and Christians of being some of those people who fit those two characteristics. But as we learned from Imam al-Shawkani, that the tafseer of the Qur'an is in the language of the Qur'an itself. The miracle of the Qur'an, or one of the miracles of the Qur'an, is the language of the Qur'an. Okay? So that it's fit for every time and place. So Allah is telling us about a characteristic. And this characteristic is not restricted to Jews or Christians. It's anyone who acts without having knowledge. And they know that there is guidance there. They still do their own thing and they make it up. This person is those persons who are astray. These are the dhaleen. Because they're acting without knowledge. And those people who know better but don't do better, no matter what, even if they're Muslim, then these people are the ones who have incurred the ghadab of Allah, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah is talking about those people who know what's right. The Jews know what's correct. They knew that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the Prophet Muhammad. And they knew that Isa ibn Maryam was the messenger of Allah and the Messiah. And yet and still they rejected both. Okay? For various reasons. So the one who knows better but doesn't act on his knowledge, then that's the one that gets the anger of Allah. And the one that doesn't know any better, yet puts himself forward to speak and to do without any knowledge, then this is the person that is astray. Does everybody understand that?
No.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The whole surah is about guidance, asking for guidance. Sooratul FaatiHah. Now I said there were some themes in it. Let her go on the floor, but don't let her get away. Because she's going to make too much noise. I said there were themes in the whole Qur'an. Oskoti auntie. There are themes in the Qur'an. There are 7 themes. What are the 7 themes? We speak about the mathaani, right? Well, Qur'an al-Kareem. Allah's Messenger said about the 7 most oft repeated themes. Well, what are they? We should know, right? We're Muslims. We've been Muslim for longer than a year. We should know what the 7 themes of the Qur'an is. We say we follow Qur'an and Sunnah. We've been saying that since the mid-90s, right? So you think that we would know at least the 7 main themes in the Qur'an. And it should be second nature to us. I'm saying that so that we can be humble. Okay? Now, the main theme in the Qur'an is Tawheed. Now, Tawheed is 2 types of Tawheed. Did you know that? There's 2 types of Tawheed. There's Tawheed of Allah, and there's Tawheed from the slave. A lot of people, looking funny. Look. When we talk about Tawheed, with towards to Allah, what do we mean by that? The Tawheed of Allah. What do we mean? Oh, this is not correct. Where I put my pen? Tawheed of Allah. Now the word Tawheed, we have the word wahada. Yushadda. Wahada. So Tawheed comes from the meaning of wahada. What does wahada mean? Maymuna? To make something one. How do I make something one? Come here. Come here. I just made him one. Is that what I did? Did I? Actually, I did. I singled him out. To make something one is to single it out. You guys get the point? Is he the only person in this room? No. But I singled him out. I isolated him from everyone else. Right? To come up here. Is that correct? So I made Tawheed of Zakaria. Right? So if I was to say, Zakaria ta'ala huna. I made Tawheed by mentioning Zakaria. If I just said ta'alu, then everybody would have to say, oh, coming over, if they were listening to me, right? But by me singling out Zakaria, I made Tawheed of Zakaria. That's the Tawheed of the slave to Allah. That we single Allah out. We isolate Allah being the only one that we worship. that we pledge our allegiance to, that we become the slave for. You get my point? Yeah, unclick your fingers. That's why our old heads used to go like this all the time and like that. Maybe they knew the hadith. That's what I always think when I learned that hadith, that you shouldn't keep your fingers crossed in the masjid like this. I remember all the pictures of our old heads always going like this and like that. You know? I said, subhanAllah. Everything they did wasn't just an act. They was doing things based on knowledge. So everybody understands Tawheed from the slave to Allah? Now what's Tawheed of Allah? What's the that's one type of Tawheed. What's the Tawheed of Allah? Anybody? That, yes sir.
Oneness.
Wait, that don't mean nothing. You say oneness, you said an English word, but that don't mean nothing. Oneness. And there's a problem. We say English words and we don't know what it means. What does that mean? I can say the oneness of Abad.
That he's the only one unique in worship to.
No, that's our Tawheed. That's Tawheed from the slave to the Lord. That we single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us being the only one that we slave for. Okay? But what about Allah himself having Tawheed? What is the Tawheed of Allah? Because I said there's two types of Tawheed, right?
He must give us our right.
He must. Huwa fa'alun lima yurid. Allah does whatever He wants to, but He's never going to do us any wrong because He's al-adl. That's just the nature that He created Himself with. Not created Himself, but He enforced on Himself. Okay? I said the wrong word. Allah is everlasting. He always was and always will be. Okay? So, my point is this. Allah, the Tawheed of Allah, as opposed to Tawheed of the slave, is that Allah is unique in and of Himself. He is the only one that has the sifat, the description that He has. He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik Al-Quddus, Al-Salam, Al-Mu'min Al-Muhaymin. Right? This is who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. He is subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no one else is. You get my point? He is the only one, and that is the Tawheed that Allah possesses of Himself. His own uniqueness. So when we say Tawheed, we mean both types of Tawheed. Does that make sense? So when we read in the Qur'an, we're going to find both types of Tawheed mentioned over and over again. You won't open a page of Qur'an without seeing a description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on it. Right? It'll say He is Rahman, He is Al-Aziz, Al-Ghaffar. And none of us are that. And we don't know anyone like that. So that's the Tawheed of Allah. In His names and His attributes and His descriptions. Okay? And then the Tawheed of Allah that Allah is teaching us that let the believers trust in Allah. وَعَبُدُوهُ. Right? وَلَا تُشْرِكُوهُ. Right? Worship Him and don't make shirk with Him. This is our Tawheed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So understand that Tawheed is one of the main themes in the Mus'haf, in the Qur'an. The next theme in the Qur'an, I say qasas, stories. Right? The stories in the Qur'an. Are there stories in the Qur'an?
No.
And stories make up half the Qur'an. Half the Qur'an are stories. Hey, Hannah. What's good? Half the Qur'an is stories. What are these stories about? Well, we'll talk about that later. Talk about that in a moment. So, another objective of the Qur'an is to teach us these stories. Okay? Give it back to me. What's the next thing in the Qur'an? Man? Let me stop. Yunus, what about? أنت تريد أن تذهبي؟ لا أريدك أن تذهبي. تحتاجين إليها. أيوة. خذيها. نعم تعال. Maria, ابتدي Maria. Can you do it, Maria? Teach her what to do, okay? So the next thing that's in the Qur'an, the next main theme in the Qur'an are what? Anybody? Maimuna? Zainab, Kulthum, Ramala, Waila, Hind? Yes?
The last day.
I don't want to, yes, you're right, but that's not what I was going to mention here.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Ahkam. The rules. That's the next thing in the Quran. The ahkam. Not the arkan, the ahkam. Now, the ahkam are the next thing, and those are the three main points in the whole Quran. Everything else is built on those three things. Okay? There's either every ayah. What am I telling you here? Every ayah you look at, you can find something dealing with Tawheed in it. Every one. Okay? And or it's going to be a story in there. And or it's going to be talking about a rule, a regulation, what we're supposed to do. So we learn this so that we can, while we're looking into the Quran, we can constantly look at every ayah and search for these things. So Allah tells us to think about the Quran, to consider the Quran. So look for these things and consider how the ayah came out with the rule of Tawheed in this particular ayah, and a story in this particular ayah, or a ruling in this particular ayah. You understand? Look through that as you recite the Quran. Now before Ramla left, she said stories, and she started to go on to some other things. Now when we look at the stories, I said there are 7 mathaani. There are 7 oft-repeated themes in the Quran. I only named how many? 3. I only named 3. So where do the other, what was that? 4 more come from? They come from the qasas. They come from the stories. So let's look at that. We're talking about stories now, right? We have Tawheed. We have qasas and ahkam, right? Now when we talk about the qasas, we have stories. That's what qasas are, stories. And they make up half the Quran. So you think we might notice that. Half the Quran are stories. Now, who is being spoken about in these stories? The prophets. So one thing, we have prophets. They are the ones that are being spoken about in the stories, right?
Yeah.
Well, what are they talking about? Yes, sir.
Their messages.
What was their message?
Tawheed.
Tawheed was the message, yes, that's part of it, but what were they saying about Tawheed? Yes.
To say that Allah is the only God.
That's it. You're talking about, see, what I want here, there's a difference between telling me the chronology of the story. Like I tell you the theme. When I explain the theme of, let's say, Al-FaatiHah, I went through and I told you what's in Al-FaatiHah, then I told you the theme, though, is guidance, the ask for guidance, right? You're telling me the story, what's in there, but I'm asking you for more than that. I don't want the words, I want the objective of the speech. Because he could say something to me, but I understand his objective is different. Right? He might see me after a long time and say, man, I'm mad at you. He doesn't mean that he's angry. He's mad, I miss you. That's what that meant. You get my point? Because I understand the objective of a speech. So now you're telling me the speech, tell me the objective. What's that, your left hand? I'm dirty?
Examples.
Examples. No, I'm not going to give that one to you. Yes.
To guide people.
He gave. They were talking about the last day. The people online got it. They're talking about the last day. Yes, they talked about Tawheed. Yes, they talked about examples and stuff like that. But what did they talked about what?
Warn people
That the last day is coming. You better act right. Why? Because the last day is coming, right? That's it. You better worship Allah. You said worship Allah, right?
No.
Why?
Because the last day is
Because the last day is coming. Isn't what they say? You better unclick your fingers. Why? Because the last day is coming, right? Yes or no, guys?
No.
Thank you, Hannah. So, the people came before us. You better learn from their example. Why? Because the last day is coming. And what's going to happen on the last day? there's the threat of what?
Jahannam.
Jahannam, the fire, right? And there's a promise of what? Jannah. I don't know, yeah, paradise. Is that how you spell paradise?
No.
You guys get that?
No.
So now these 4 things fall under the story. So we have A, B, J, abject. These 3. We have Tawheed, Qasas, and Ahkami. But in detail, we break down that the stories are talking about these 4 things. They're talking about prophets who came, who threatened and said, the last day's coming, so you better act right. And if you don't act right on the last day, the fire is going to get you. Or you're going to get if you act right, Allah in His mercy may put you into paradise. Now let it be. Okay, you'll have a plug there? Okay, so we're going to stop here. That's what this sooratul FaatiHah is about, okay? It's 11:30. We're going to take a break, inshallah ta'ala, and try to come back after Dhuhr, 1:30. We'll pray at 1:30. You all right, man? Any questions? Bring it here. Class will continue, yes, around 1:45. We pray at 1:30. But let's say 2 o'clock. Because allow people to get into place. Inshallah. Okay? We'll be back here on this link. We'll be back in online and everything. Inshallah. You have a question?
No.
Yes, go ahead.
Where does the last 3 qira'at come from?
He said, where does the last 3 qira'at come from? This is because the concept is that there are 7 qira'at and the other 3 are last 3. Well, this thing is that there was never 7 qira'at. There were 25 qira'at. Okay? And the Ummah, the scholars at that time said, we can't follow up on all these qira'at. It's too many riwayat, too many narrations. So let us look at them and only keep the ones that are unanimously agreed upon. Okay? So they went through them, and for some reason, this one shaykh, his name was Ibn Mujahid, he said, let's make it 7. So since he was the one that was sponsored by the government to do the survey, he tried to make it 7. But when he made it 7 qira'at, the other scholars of qira'ah objected. They said, what's wrong with you? How are you going to try to make it 7? The people are going to think that the 7 huruf that are mentioned in the Prophet, they're going to think it's the 7 qira'at. And he said, and he said, nobody's going to think that but a fool. Only a fool would think that. But nowadays, people think that the 7 qira'at are the 7 huruf. Not that they're fools, but because of time. After all that time, people, stopped learning and didn't realize that only the specialists remembered. You understand? So since he made the 7, the scholars objected. The scholars of Qur'an objected. And they said, what are you going to do with Abu Ja'far, who's number 8, mind you? Okay? How are you going to live with Xing out Abu Ja'far from the Qira'at? Now, who is Abu Ja'far? Abu Ja'far is just the first person to teach Qur'an besides a Sahabi. Okay? Now, Abu Ja'far, he was leading the Salah and Sahaba were there. Okay? When they said the word Qari after Abdullah bin Mas'ud died, if they said the word Qari, they meant Abu Ja'far. That's who they meant. And so he led the Salah for like 70 years. in Medina. And he was the Qadi of Medina. Now some people say, what about Nafi? Warish Nafi? I thought Nafi was the Qadi of Medina. He was. He was the student of Abu Ja'far, that is. And when Abu Ja'far died, Nafi took over the place. So you see that, you know, he became famous after the death of his teacher. Okay? And people only remember the latest guy. They don't remember the pioneer. So Abu Ja'far led the Salah with Abdullah ibn Umar in the Salah. And so the Sahaba, it was a time when no one dared teach the Qur'an except the Sahaba. How could you? Who were you to start teaching Qur'an and they're the companions of the Messenger of Allah living around you? But the companion said, Abu Ja'far, you go in. Ibn Umar said, you go, push them forward. You go forward. You get the point? So the scholar was like, there's no way we can drop Abu Ja'far. So they added him on there. Okay? Then they said, what are you going to do with Yaqub then? If you put Abu Ja'far, what are you going to do with Yaqub? Al-Hadrami, the Yemeni. He was considered the most knowledgeable person in Qira'at. Okay? They said, SubhanAllah, pardon me. So it became 9. And they said, now, if we're going to be fair, we have to put Khalaf. Khalaf is the student of Hamza. And he has his own Qira'at also. He combined the Qira'at. He was the only one that learned all the Qira'at of Kufa. Now Kufa, you have 4 scholars from Kufa there in the 10. Okay? You have Hafs, you have Al-Kisai, you have Hamza, and you have Khalaf al-Ashir. He's called Khalaf al-Ashir. Khalaf the 10th. Okay? And they stopped there. Because these 10 were unanimously agreed upon their Qira'ah and accepted by the scholars and the people at that time. Now we have other Qira'at. We call them shadh, irregular. We don't accept them to be called Qur'an. And we don't recite them. We study them. We study them. You know why we study them? Because we find the Crusaders, those so-called Orientalists, they always want to quote the shadh Qira'at and try to bring meaning from it and try to twist people around. So we study them to say, that's not part of the Qur'an. That's the Ibn Muhsin's Qira'ah. That's Hassan al-Basri's Qira'ah. We don't accept that as Qira'ah. To straighten out and keep the Ummah safe. Because we're like soldiers, or Marines in this case, you know, who walk their flank and look at the fence, and anything out of line, we correct it. Okay? So there are actually 14 Qira'ah that we see. 4 of them are not accepted to be Qira'ah. 10 of them are Qira'ah from the Qur'an. Okay? From the way the Prophet ﷺ allowed and taught his companions to recite. Does that answer your question?
No.
Hey. Barakallah feekum. May Allah bless us all. And I'll see you guys, insha'Allah ta'ala, at 2 o'clock. And you guys at 1:30, inshallah, those who can offer the salah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika.